What's up, everyone? This is Brandon with Hifi. Thanks for being back on the channel. Just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who has liked and commented and subscribed to my past few videos. I know I haven't put out a whole lot recently, so sorry for that, but thank you guys for supporting. I ask that if you're enjoying the videos, that you please support in any way. It just inspires me, keeps me motivated to keep sharing this journey with you all. I haven't put out a video in a while. I broke my wrist about 4 months ago, so I wasn't really feeling like putting anything out, but we're back and we have a fun episode today. So today I'm talking all about these huge speakers next to me, what they are, why I chose them, some kind of background on the construction of them, and some impressions on them now, and some hopes for the future. So I hope you guys enjoy. Stick around. Thanks for being here. Peace. So, quick disclaimer, as you can see, the Ohm Walsh 2 speakers are no more. I sold them in order to build and fund this whole project. So I'll kind of go into what these are. As much as I love the Ohm Walsh 2s, they just didn't really suit where I was trying to go in my journey. The amplification I was seeking, those speakers were like high 80s sensitivity, and these are like mid to high 90s. I think they're 96 dB sensitive, and I'll get into why that's important. So, what are these? These are called Lii Song Audio F-15 full range drivers. They're 15 inches wide in diameter, and Lii Song is the brand. They are manufactured in China, so this is Chi-Fi at its finest, and they're a full range driver. So there's no tweeter, there's no bass woofer, anything like that. It is a single driver to cover the whole frequency, and that was a very important consideration for me too. But why did I pick these speakers? So I'll bring it back a little bit. About almost 3 years ago, August of 2022, I put my name on a wait list for an amplifier. And if you guys have been paying attention to this hi-fi culture, audiophile gear world in the past few years, you might be well aware. It is a amplifier by a brand called Deckard, and it is specifically the Deckard SE84 UFO 2.1 single-ended triode amp, and it puts out a whopping 2.3 watts per channel. It is a very small, powered, flea watt powered amplifier, and you need high efficiency speakers, loudspeakers to drive them, to drive for the amp to be driven. So basically, about this time, around 3 years ago, I was already pretty well aware of this idea, right, of low power amps, high powered speakers, or high efficiency speakers, in large part by the Jazz Kisa like lookbooks that were coming out at the time, like the late 2010s. Um, I was following all that, and I was learning more about Japanese um, audiophile culture, and how in the 80s and the 90s they were kind of repurposing old American tube amps, triode amps specifically, and triode based amps, and we're pairing them with vintage high efficiency like loudspeakers, right? Like JBLs, those huge vintage JBLs, Altex, uh, Western Electric, just all these old vintage brands, right? And there's this whole movement. And I learned about John Hiraga. He was like the main father of this triode revival, and I'll drop a video where I learned all about that on Real World Audio's YouTube page. There's a guy by the name of Janos who has an amazing channel that I highly recommend. I've learned an incredible amount from him. But yeah, check out that video if you want to know more about this kind of revolution. It's very interesting. But I like the idea of the simplicity of a low powered amp and a high efficiency speaker. It just sounded really cool to me, and especially a full range driver. The simplicity of one speaker just sounded super cool to me. And the more and more I learned about how kind of cohesive a full range driver can be in your system, the more and more it reinforced that, okay, this is kind of where I want to go with this. So um, I had to kind of select this speaker out of a bunch of speakers, right? Like, how did I come to this one? So Steve Deckert, the owner of Deckware, he um, he basically, well, let me back up a little bit. Before I pick the speaker, I also want to talk about like how I came across the amplifier. People like Steve Guttenberg, Thomas Stereo, Andrew Robinson, they put out they put out these gushing reviews about the time before I put my name down on the wait list, and that's how a lot of people in, I want to say most people in the mainstream audio community really found out about these amps, and the wait list just got like exponentially longer. So, you know, Deckware has been around for 25 years plus at this point. But this new iteration, for whatever reason, really blew up. And that's how I found out about it. And so when I was already having these ideas of, wanting to try single-headed triodes amps, once these reviews came out, I was like, okay, I'm sold. I'm doing it. And I put my down payment, and here we are. I'm still waiting. I'm number 52 or 51 on the wait list. How do I know? It's because I check it every 5 minutes, and no, every 10 minutes. But that's how, yeah, that's how I got on this list, and here we are. I still haven't heard these speakers with the amp yet, so I'm hoping to hear that soon. But yeah, going back to this whole revival, I also want to mention people like Devin Oaz. He's also a proponent of this whole kind of ideology. He doesn't use single-headed triodes all the time, but I know that he's steeped in that culture, the Japanese audiophile culture of low-power tube amps and high-efficiency speakers, and he's kind of really putting that out in the mainstream nowadays, which is super cool. But yeah, so I knew that system synergy was a thing, right? Like, I knew that I couldn't just throw any speakers at this amp. I had to have the right kind of speakers. I was learning about impedance matching speakers, what that meant, and kind of the process behind that. But I came across a list by Steve Deckert, where he listed all these speakers that he recommends the Deckware amp, with the Zen amp, and I kind of went through the list. I looked at what my budget would support. Some of them were more DIY driven. Some of them were things that you just bought, and the ones that really jumped out to me were the Lii Songs, because while there's baffles that you can buy from people like Kane Tuck Audio, Randy at Kane Tuck Audio, Deckware sells these beautiful like thick baffles that probably sound amazing, but they're like $2,000 something, so that was out of my price range. But a lot of people were saying that these drivers alone were really good, and you could put them in an open baffle configuration, right? You can make your own open baffle, is what I mean to say, and that's what I ended up doing. People were using like MDF, plywood, different types of wood, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I can totally do this, right? This is like a doable thing. Me already being in like that DIY mindset, so that was kind of my motivation to go with these speakers. And among the list, they're definitely like on the lower end price wise, and they're not super expensive. They're like $600 shipped from China, I think. But yeah, so the simplicity of a single driver appealed to me. The simplicity of an open baffle speaker, this is my appeal to me, and this is something, being my first entry into speaker building. I've never built a speaker before. I have very limited woodworking experience, but I knew that it just seemed doable to me. So that's kind of how I chose and selected these speakers. And then I kind of went through the whole process of figuring out how I was going to make them and what plywood I was going to get and all that. But essentially, what I did was I sourced a plywood sheet locally here in Hawaii, and I shoved it in my car, and it definitely scratched the top of our car, and it barely fit. It's kind of incredible how it did. I'll throw a picture if I can find it. But yeah, my next door neighbor Landon, he helped me make the cuts. I stole the dimensions from Lii Song's website. They posted like a little diagram with metric measurements on how um, wide and tall it should be, right? This front baffle right here. So I did that. I cut the hole to size, and my neighbor helped me make this beautiful like bevel on the side to kind of increase the horn effect. That's an idea that I got from one YouTube channel, but also mainly from Hi-Fi Cave. He's another YouTube guy who has put a lot of content out. If you look up Lii Song Open Baffle, he's going to be like the first video you're going to see. So shout out to Hi-Fi Cave. He was very instrumental in kind of my thought process on the design, especially like the speaker height. He was talking about different heights and how that affected different um, things about the sound. And this, I settled on a certain height. I don't remember how high it. Anyways, um, but yeah, so I did all that. I sanded it down. I put multiple coats of a water-based polyurethane. Sanded it again, another coat, sanded it again. I think I did three or four coats total. And basically, the configuration they're in now, it's not a finished work by any means. I posted what I have now on a Facebook open baffle forum thing, and I was getting flamed, right? People were like, oh, that's a bad design, and these L brackets are so floppy and blah blah, and they're not finished. They're just what I'm working with right now. So basically, what I have is a bottom wooden plate, the same material as the top, but it's not super big. And then I have the top baffle, and it's sunken in a little bit. And then I have L brackets on both sides, and then a cinder block on top of those like things you buy off Amazon for like a dishwasher or a washing machine, like the isolation pucks, those little, they look like hockey pucks, like the rubber ones. I have those, four of those under each center block on for each speaker. So it's working for now, but I wanna I wanna change the center block to like sandbags, and I want to take out the L brackets and put like wooden, like 45-degree cut wooden things with brass screws to kind of stabilize it. I think that would be a little better for the sound. But if you guys have any tips or suggestions, drop it in the comments, and I'll throw a picture of kind of what it looks like from the side profile. But yeah, I got it all together. They look incredible in my opinion. They're very wide. My wife wasn't extremely happy with how big they are, but she's coming to terms with them, I think. Um, but yeah, I love them. They're super cool, and they're definitely a conversation starter. Open baffle as a whole is kind of a polarizing topic in or a polarizing item component in the audio world. They're dipole speakers, so they kind of fire in both directions, and the sound wraps around the baffle. Um, but they have a more wide open sound than your typical box speaker, so they're definitely different. Um, and I'm really excited to see what happens when I start throwing some tubes at them. So I guess I'll talk about my overall impressions, right? What do I think of what they're doing now? So I never intended them to be paired with this amplifier, with this integrated receiver. I never intended it to be long term. My initial thought process was, okay, I will make these speakers, break them in, with this amplifier. The break-in process is like 100 to 200 hours or so, and shortly after, I'll have my amp, hopefully put it together. It's gonna sound perfect and done deal, but not really how it worked out. I'm still living with this combination, and they sound okay. They sound decent. When I have the volume at like a good level, like 60, 65 plus dB, they sound pretty good. Mid range is really nice. Huge, open, wide sound stage. Um, Generally, I feel like they're a lot more resolving than my last speakers. I'll say that the ohms, you know, you could pretty much throw anything at them and everything sounded good. With these speakers, they're just way more revealing. I'll put on a bad recording, and you can tell it's a bad recording. I'll put on a good recording, and you can tell it's a good recording. Um, I feel like there are a lot more. The transients are like more. There's more attack on these speakers. Um, they're just they're just more true in a sense than my last speakers were, and I don't know if that's because of the sensitivity or just because they're bigger drivers, and it's just more air, or it's just the characteristics of the speakers. I'm not quite sure why, but that's my overall impressions of them. Um, and definitely in the higher frequencies, I feel like there's way more distortion than there was with the ohms. Um, so I think that it's not so much the speaker's fault. I just think it's not the best pairing with a solid state transistor based vintage receiver. But that being said, I'm I'm being thankful for this experience. I'm trying to be happy with what I have, and I know that things are just gonna get better when I throw tubes at it, especially when I pair it with the Deckard amp, which should be happening soon. Um, but yeah, that's kind of an overview of my system, what it is now, and these speakers. My next video is gonna be really, really, really interesting. I've been working on building a tube phono kit that has taken me months, um, hours and hours and hours of research and studying and building, and my goodness, I'm like 95, 96% done with that project, and I'm going to share all of that with you folks when it gets done. But thanks for sticking along. If you made it this far, thank you very much. Please rate, comment, subscribe, support the channel. Yeah, peace. Have a good one.